All right, so I'm not sure why that, where I mishapped there. If you were paying attention closely in the video, you might have seen where I made it a surface instead of a solid, but that's why I couldn't sketch on that face. So there was live action troubleshooting. My advice is don't get overly frustrated when you run into an issue like that. Just do a little bit of investigating, do a little bit of clicking. The nice thing about this type of thing is you're not going to hurt it. You might create more trouble, I guess, but you can always just start from scratch as well. It's not appealing, and we don't desire that. But if you find yourself in that position, I've found that some of my best lessons have came from what you just saw. You know, making sure that solid selected, not surface, and that I remember it better than, you know, even following a video along like you are following this video along better. So if you run into a troubleshooting issue, don't let frustration set up a bunch of barriers in your head as far as problem solving goes, because it will. And just do some investigating. In worst case scenario, you just got to go back, hit undo a few times, and redo a few steps. Anyways, what I want to do is sketch on this, what I kept trying to do last video. Okay, and it will let me click and then just sketch. And what I'm going to do is we're going to call this sketch the pin head, the head of the pin. All right, and it's going to be on this plane, and we're going to hit circle. And what I want to do is this symbol that comes up, I'm pointing to it because, again, I keep thinking you can see me point, but this symbol that's coming up right next to my cursor, that's a circle and a circle, looks like an eye, is pretty much saying if you click here, that circle is going to be concentric to the pin shaft, and we want that. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and bring this out. And I don't know, let's just make it a diameter of, move me out of my way again, 0.5. Right, now what we want to do is extrude that. Now this is unique in that we want to add this material to the other material, and we want to make it one part. If we're not careful here, Onshape will think it's a third part, and when we look down here, we'll see the block, and we'll see part 2, and then we'll see part 3. That's not what we want. We want this to be part of part 2. Interesting. All right, so come over here, extrude, and it wants to add it to the part. So that's good. It's solid. We've got add. We're not removing. We're not doing an intersection. We're extruding that pin head, and let's just make it a depth of 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and call this pin head again for clarity and communication's sake. I think you should too. Hit check. Okay, and what I want to verify again, that it's part of the same part, that I didn't create a part 3, that the pin head, yes, it is separate from the pin shaft. When I come down here and hover over part 2, which we can rename pin, we now have that pin complete. So what I want to do next is show you how we can mate this into that block right here. This time we are going to hop over to an assembly. I don't know if there's a way to do this in a part studio on Onshape yet. I haven't experimented with that capability, but I'm much more comfortable hanging out in this assembly tab. So just from old habits. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to insert the block in the pin. Now, I'm just going to insert block. This first part, when you insert it, if you don't click anything, if you just hover over the check, it'll lock it to the origin. And the first part you insert is usually the part that you want fixed. If I insert this part and I don't lock it to the origin, and then I insert the pin and I don't lock it to anything, and then I start mating it, when I click and drag, things are just gonna move kind of all over the place. It won't know to keep the block still while I'm dragging the pin. It may, when I click and drag the pin, may just click and drag the block. So you want some organization moving forward. Let's just lock that block in place. and I shouldn't be able to click and drag it, and I'm wrong. Okay, right click, select fix. Right now I shouldn't be able to click and drag it. So I guess I don't know if that's a misconception I took from my Onshape days or not. Maybe it's not. I mean, I just imagined all that. But let's go ahead and insert a pin. Okay, so now we have our pin, we have our block, and now what we want to do is mate this and this together. The type of mate we're going to use, if you come up here, you can see all sorts of different types of mate, is going to be a cylindrical mate. Okay, because we do have a cylinder, we got a hole, we just want to put that cylinder in that hole, and we're good to go. So I'm going to select cylindrical mate, and then it's going to come up and it's going to ask for us to select these mate connectors. Now this is a new tool that I'm still getting used to as well. But what I want to do is select that mate connector. And if I come over here, what I've noticed is you want to select the same, like its corresponding mate connector. What I don't want to do is like, well, I'm at a loss for words right now. So please just, I guess, follow along. I'm going to just try that mate. All right. And what I should see is that cylinder is locked in there. Now, what I don't know is if it's okay. Perfect. Now you can move this pin in and out of that hole. We could experiment with setting up like what I want to say are interference mates, or we can actually make it so that you can't do this. We could set up that relationship. I don't want to get into all that right now. We've got it to do the basic function of sliding in and out just like that. We've got our block, we've got our pin, we're good to go. Because this is an overview assignment, I want to go ahead and talk about making drawings of these parts. So this is pretty cool. We created our parts, multiple parts in the same part studio. We've done an assembly that shows how it's supposed to actually operate, and does a decent job of doing just that. And now I want to create drawings. If I want you to build these, I'm not going to sit down and have a conversation with you. I'm just going to hand you the prints if you're my manufacturer, and you're going to deliver on those prints. So let's talk about that. I'm going to insert new element and let's create a drawing. I just go with the default template that comes up, and I just select OK. All right, and this is pretty cool for just understanding how part drawings work. Let's start with the block. If you just select the block, by default, if you look in the upper left-hand corner here, it wants to insert view, and it wants to insert the front view of the block. That's fine. I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to click. Make sure you click in about the same spots I'm clicking. So in this kind of A2 quadrant, you got A here, and you got this 2 here. In this A2 quadrant, go ahead and click that. And what that's going to do is give us a front view of that block. Now, these terms are kind of arbitrary depending on what you consider the front, what you consider the top, what you consider the right. But right now, this button, projected view, is on. Again, I can turn that on and off by hitting the P button or by clicking it a bunch of times. I want to go directly above this, okay? This is where you want to be careful too. You don't want to go off to the side. It'll give you an angular view. You want to go straight above it. And when you click that, you get both the front view and the top view. Now, projected view is still turned on. So I want to click this view and I want to slide over straight to the right. And I get the side view, the right view. Okay, so if you're looking at this part, front view, top view, right view. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go up at an angle, and now you get the isometric view. All right, now, one thing that happens is I could turn on hidden lines. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just right-click. Make sure projected view is turned off. Right-click, and you can click Show Hidden Lines. Now, in that view, that doesn't mean anything, but in this view is where it'll mean something. So do that, and I'll finish up on the next video.